be with you. This is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "As it was in the days of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. In those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day that Noah entered the ark. They did not know until the flood came and carried them all away. So will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be out in the field. One will be taken, one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken, one will be left. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on which day your Lord will come. Be sure of this. If the master of the house had known the hour of night when the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and not let his house be broken into. So too, you must also be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come." My friends, the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. We welcome back good friend Deacon Joe Persiger and his wife Julia from the Baltimore area, visiting family and having turkey and enjoying this beautiful Erie weather. Although it's less wacky up here than it is down in Baltimore and Washington, that's for sure, so it's good to have you up here. And it's also Glenn Lewis's debut appearance as serving today, so congratulations. He's scared to death, but he'll be fine. For 2 seasons so far, there's a very bizarre but very fascinating series on HBO called The Leftovers. It started in June of 2014, went for about a year. The second season ended about this time last year, and the third season begins sometime in 2017. They didn't say when. The series is based on a Tom Perrotta novel by the same name. The Leftovers takes place 3 years after a global event called Sudden Departure, where, as the story goes, on October 14th, 2011, 140 million people, 2% of the world population, just disappeared, all at the same time. There's no explanation, no warning, no announcement from God or the Pope or anything. 140 million people just disappeared. And again, the series begins 3 years after that, centering primarily on the McGarvey family from a fictional town called Mapleton, New York. And apparently following this event, mainstream religions declined, a number of cults emerged. Most notably, they have in the series the cult called the Guilty Remnant, where they all dress in white. No one speaks, they just write notes to each other, and they all smoke like crazy. I'm telling you, it's a bizarre series, it's bizarre, but it's fascinating and riveting. Then again, I have no life, and I'm desperate for entertainment, so I'm also mourning the death of Carol Brady from the Brady Bunch, so my mind is just shot. Well, the opening scene, it's very short, but the opening scene of the series was unbelievable. A woman and her baby are in this laundromat. And she's taking clothes out of the dryer. She's talking to her husband on her phone, real normal. She gets the baby in the car. The baby's crying. She continues talking on the phone. The baby stops crying. She looks in the back seat before she puts it in gear and sees that the baby's gone. She gets out of the car. She's frantically running around the car, calling the baby's name. When a little boy about 30 yards away starts yelling, "Where's my daddy?" The camera goes on this shopping cart filled with groceries as it slams into this car. And then down the street, another car just plows into the side of a car with no driver. Panic sets in right then. The scene closes. It opens up with the words, 3 years later. I never heard of the book's author, Tom Perrotta, but I'd like to know what made him think of this storyline. And I remember I had no series The Leftovers would be about. I was just real kind of curious about the title. I just became glued to it, just out of a fascinating curiosity of what people would be doing after that opening scene. It never really mentioned God or religion, if I recall, for the whole series. And it never really explained why certain people left and why others stayed. And I guess I have to admit that I've been glued to this every episode just to see if there would be some explanation or some answer to my own question. What if? What if that really happened? Well, we all know that it could, conceivably, it could. But what if? I don't know if any one of us are going to be around when the world comes to an end or when the Christ comes to usher it in. But we have all been touched by someone's very sudden death, to be sure. We've all had to endure the truth of that reality, that this life ends, and we have to deal with the loss of people that we love. And we all understand, whether we admit it or not, that not one of us here knows when that time will be for us. So it begs the question, how ready are we? Here on the first weekend of the new liturgical year, the first weekend of Advent, Matthew's Gospel takes us to the final days of Jesus' life. And notice, the first Gospel of Advent has nothing to do with the birth of Jesus or the manger, the swaddling clothes, or the gifts of the astrologers. Jesus is teaching his disciples on the final day of his earthly freedom. For over the next 2 days, he goes into hiding until the Passover. For he knows they're going to get him and they're going to kill him real soon. So Jesus wants his apostles and the rest of his disciples who might be listening to focus on the present time and when the present time will end. And he wants them to be prepared for it, for they will never know when it's going to happen. When he refers to the story of Noah, he wanted them to realize that that story wasn't so much about the wickedness of the people around Noah. The problem was that they were destroyed because they were too immersed in the baloney of their own lives that they were blind. They were blind to the coming danger of the flood. The same goes with the parable of the 2 men in the field, the 2 women at the grinding mill. Only one of each was saved because they were prepared. They were vigilant. Soon, the apostles and all the believers would be on their own to proclaim the good news of God. Proclaim it to a world and a people that would be constantly distracted and challenged by all the evils and all the betrayals that truly fills this world. So the mind of Jesus, the only way to survive, the only way to conquer, the only way to get past this world and enter into the kingdom of his Father's glory is to be prepared. Build a faith and a way of life completely engulfed in the gospel, and build it so strong that no one and nothing can ever take it down. So that he would come back again at the end of the world, or at the end of their own little world, whenever they would be ready to go. Ready to go at any time. Ready to go and see the face of God. That is Advent. That is what it means to make ready the way of the Lord. It is not, am I ready for Christmas? Am I ready for a birthday? Advent is, am I ready to see the face of God? I wish you God's peace.